Hi guys, Pretty Little Redhead here. I decided to make a YouTube account because I just want to try something new. I do have an Instagram and Facebook, and I'll put the links in the information below so you can follow me. I'm excited. I really like the finale, and I know a lot of people are pissed off because, you know, Ren was an A or Arya was an A, and that they thought CeCe was stupid. You know, I think CeCe was the perfect A. She, you know, Marlene laid the clues out for everybody from the season, you know, from season 1. I mean, she was kind of like shady, so we knew something was up. We seen her in a red coat, we seen her in a black hoodie. I mean, she acted and sounded just like Alice, and she looked like Alice, and got confused for Allison. I mean, it was right in front of us the whole time. And I always loved CeCe. CeCe was probably, like, besides Emily, my favorite character, so I was really excited. And, you know, years ago, I suspected CeCe as A, and I keep reading other people's theories, so my theories changed, and I really wish I just would have stuck with that one the whole time. Anyway, I want to get down to the finale. Now, I know a lot of people are pissed off because there's a lot of plot holes that Marlene did not fill in. We're still questioned with who killed Mrs. De Laurentiis. Why did Bethany kill Marion? Why were the age differences, you know, in the flashbacks when we saw Marion, Toby, and Allison together, and then in the show, they were, you know, Charles and Bethany were little kids, and they were 12 years old. So at this point, Toby wasn't even born. You know, why was Sara Redcoat and Black Widow? You know, we didn't even know who she was up until she went missing. So, you know, this is where we're all confused, but, you know, gotta take it as it comes. They only give us what they want to tell us. So we can come up with many theories as we want, but they're going to purposely leave things out. Now, I don't think Marlene is going to leave us hanging. I think when she comes back with us 6B, more questions will be answered, so just hang tight. Like, they're not going to set us up for failure. I mean, a lot of you think that already because you're pissed off that CeCe's A and, you know, whatever. So, let me get down to basics here. I'm going to be making a few videos on my theories for the upcoming season. I'm not going to be talking about, you know, oh, I wish it would have been this way. No, like, I'm just going to move forward. So, we saw in 610 that Bethany and Charles were in Radley together, and they were sitting on the wall. And Charles, you know, he looked at Bethany and said, "I wish we can get out of here." And Bethany says, "Leaving's easy, Charles. It's staying gone that would be tough." So Charles, you know, I love this scene. I really liked it for some reason when he says, "My mom always told me that there's nothing more believable than a really good lie. We just need to come up with something that's a great story, you know, something fabulous and devastating at the same time." Which I believe when we found out that CeCe was A and the story she told was fabulous and devastating. Bethany says, you know, well, we can get lost in the woods and be raised by a pack of wolves. And Charles says, "Amateur, do you think I could survive in the woods?" This is where my wheels started turning. I think at this point, after he told his little story and said that his parents were crackheads, and he's like, "Please, don't make me talk about it anymore. It's too painful." This is when Bethany learned how to manipulate. She was already a crazy bitch, we know this. So at this point, she became so obsessed with Charles. Charles's family, Allison, Mrs. De Laurentiis, and she turned the tables. So, you know, we hear her say, "Oh, here comes that goody two-shoes, Miss Kavanaugh." Why she pushed Miss Kavanaugh, I have no idea, and I don't, like I said, I don't want to get into that theory because I think it was just, you know, the writers changed the story over the years, so it's not going to add up, so there's no point in even trying to figure that out. But I do want to know why she pushed Marion off, you know, off the roof, and she turned the tables, like I said, learned how to manipulate really fast, pushed Marion off the roof, and knew that no one was going to believe Charles over her. So she used Charles as the perfect alibi. I wonder if this, you know, when she pushed Marion and Charles says, "Bethany, what did you do?" And she says, "What did I do? You pushed her, freak." She knew that no one would believe a little boy in a dress. So this was her perfect, you know, start of being A. You know, she said it herself. Staying gone would be tough. You need a really good lie. So I think this is when she started threatening Charles. You know, you're going to tell me everything. You're going to switch places with me. I'll kill your family and you if you don't. And, you know, I think he believed this because he watched her, you know, kill Marion or hurt Marion, whatever you want to believe. CeCe told us that there was a 7-year gap where no one visited, you know, made a visit to her. So I think at this point, this is when Charles started evolving into a girl. But since Mrs. De Laurentiis didn't visit her, she didn't really know what she looked like. But at the same time, she had to go by Bethany, and Bethany went as Charles, or CeCe, whatever. When Bethany got older, and Mrs. De Laurentiis made a visit to her, you know, she played it off that she was Charles and Charlotte because Mrs. D didn't know what she looked like. She didn't visit her for 7 years. So at this point, she acted as Charles and Charlotte, you know, learned how to escape Radley, met Mona, dated Jason to get closer to Allie because she was obsessed with Allison. Bethany, aka CeCe, really did write those letters. You know, that's why Hannah found them. She was acting as a whole different person. You know, Bethany and CeCe are separate people, but she made up the name CeCe so she can become friends with Allie and Jason and the Laurentiis family. She also did go to Cape May with Melissa, Wilden, and Allison. Little did Allie know that she was actually hanging out with Bethany, not CeCe. CeCe did tell us that Bethany stole her clothes that night and knew that she had out privileges, so she snuck out. She had a vengeance against Mrs. De Laurentiis for sleeping with her father. That still hasn't really been explained. I do think that Bethany's father is Peter Hastings or Byron Montgomery, more towards a Hastings, because Mrs. D once said, remember, never turn your back on a Hastings, and then she winds up dead. So something about that isn't sitting well with me. That night, you know, Bethany snuck out with Charles. That's what we were told. So I think at this point, the CeCe, the face of CeCe that we know, which I think is Bethany, hit Allison in the head with a rock and went after Mrs. D later on. But Mrs. D sent her back to Radley. Wilden came, you know, Mrs. D paid him off to keep her there and keep his mouth shut. But I think this is at the time when Bethany met Mona, and Mona helped her escape again, like through and through. But while Charles is still running around as who we think made to believe is Sara Harvey. So Bethany sneaks back out and kidnaps Sara Harvey, who I think is actually Charles and Charlotte. And, you know, we were told that night that Mona killed Bethany, but no. I think Mona hit the real Sara Harvey in the head, and Melissa buried her. Bethany put her own DNA all over the body, so when they found the body, they thought it was, you know, Bethany Young, when it's actually the real Sara Harvey. So the Sara that we know is actually Charles and Charlotte, and the CeCe that we know is actually Bethany. And Sara, the real Sara Harvey, is in the ground. This is her perfect alibi. You know, DNA all over the body, like perfect. It's genius. So at this point, she kidnaps Charles, aka Charlotte, aka the fake Sara Harvey, and puts her in the dollhouse, and uses her whenever she needs at her disposal, and forces her to be Redcoat, forces her to be Black Veil to spy on everybody because nobody knows her face. Everybody, like, people kind of knew who CeCe was, so she couldn't put her face out there. They had to put somebody at the Wilden's funeral and, you know, at the lodge that no one would recognize. You know, when they were sitting at Radley, Charles said, "Amateur, do you think I could survive in the woods?" This is a clue right there. If the CeCe that we know was actually Charles, she wouldn't be able to build a dollhouse and survive in the woods. Like, come on. So, this is where Bethany built the dollhouse and kept Charles there. you know, took care of her as a doll. And, you know, she needed somebody with her that knew the De Laurentiis family, or she wouldn't be able to figure things out as well. When they were busted and they found Charles/Charlotte in the basement, this is why she said, "I'm Sara Harvey." She was afraid of Bethany. She was forced to say that she was Sara, and you could tell she was unsure of herself. So she played it off as Sara Harvey, while Bethany acted as CeCe and was, you know, told everybody eventually that she was Charles. When CeCe was describing what they diagnosed her with, intermittent explosive disorder, and then she stopped and said, "That's the perfect description of Bethany." Yeah, well, she's describing herself because she is Bethany. I think this is why she tortures everybody. If you look up the definition, you know, they're violent, and then when, you know, they're mean and they act out in anger, and they have episodes, but then they feel remorseful. And this is why I think Bethany, aka CeCe, killed Mrs. De Laurentiis and then felt bad about it. She realized what she did, and she felt bad. When we see the face of Sara revealed as Redcoat and Black Veil, you know, we're shocked. We're like, no way, because this girl has been right in front of us the whole time. And I know a lot of you are mad, but at the same time, I think it's pretty good, because we never suspected Sara as either. So Marlene blindsided us. I really wish Melissa would have been Black Veil and Jenna as Redcoat, but, you know, we can't get what we want, so. But remember, there's still an Uber A out there. So we'll figure it, maybe something will happen with Jenna and Melissa later. When we see Black Veil revealed for the first time, she's in the back of the car with CeCe at Wilden's funeral. And CeCe says, you know, "Did you see a body? Tell me, can he hurt my sister anymore?" And Sara, aka Black Veil, looks at her and says, "Wilden's dead." And she has a pissed off, like, disgusted look on her face, almost as if she's so mad that CeCe's claiming Allie as her sister when Sara, aka Charles, is Allie's real sister, and she's being forced to spy on these girls, and, like, she doesn't want to. She does not want to hurt them. She said it herself at the end of the episode in the finale that she's been trying to protect them. So this is why I think she's actually Charles. And Bethany's just a crazy bitch trying to just ruin everybody and hurt everybody. You know, then CeCe says to Black Veil, you know, "Tell me he can't hurt her anymore." This is where I think Wilden is actually board shorts, because CeCe says he found out Allie was alive and he'd never let her come back to tell her story. What story? The only story that we know about is she was possibly pregnant in Cape May, and Allie may have known that Mrs. D paid Wilden off. I mean, he was afraid of her because she was going to bring everybody down with the tapes, the stories, the lies. She was a manipulator. So CeCe, aka Bethany, wanted to make sure he was dead so he couldn't harm Allison. The night that we saw Redcoat at the lodge, Sara, aka Charles, was in the Redcoat with an Allie mask. But Allie was actually there. She actually saved the girls. And this is when CeCe, aka Bethany, found out that Allison was alive. And Shauna showed up, like she said, and all hell broke loose, so the plan didn't work. Sarah's on the sideline watching all this happen again, and she didn't harm Allison. So, you know, like I said earlier, Mona claimed that she killed an innocent girl, and she thought it was Allison, dressed exactly like Allison, which there doesn't have to be a reason why Sara was dressed like Allison. All we know is that they were alike, and, you know, maybe they shopped at the same store. Melissa buried Sara because that night Mrs. D saw Spencer in the yard with a shovel, so they all thought Spencer hit her, but it was actually Mona. So Melissa buried Sara, wanting to save Spencer's ass, and Bethany put her own DNA all over that body so she could escape Radley forever. They wouldn't be looking for Bethany because they found Bethany's body apparently, so why would they go looking for her? So she escaped. That was her story. That's fabulous and devastating. She got out. She escaped. Now, Sara, the real Charles and Charlotte, is running around Rosewood. She's dating Emily, trying to protect the girls, but she's so afraid of CeCe, aka Bethany, that she does what she wants too. So as it comes off that she is hurting them, she's still trying to protect them. Then what we see at the end of the season, that he is coming back for Allison. Like, who is he? I'm not sure who he is. This could be Ren, it could be Ezra, I mean, it could be Wilden. I'm not sure, but like, I have a hunch that it's Wilden. I don't think Wilden is dead. I do believe he is alive. He could have been, you know, put on those drugs that CeCe gave Mona, Jason, and Mr. D to make us believe that he's dead. And I think he's board shorts, and I think he's coming back for Allison. I mean, I think he waited, he gave it some time, and he's just coming back for her. Or it's Ren. It's Wilden or Ren. I don't think it's Toby. I don't think it's Caleb. I don't think it's Ian. I mean, it could be. Ian maybe faked his suicide, and Melissa's is keeping him, like, out of the shadows in London. And he's probably still pissed. He's coming back with a vengeance, you know. She has the tape. She let some secrets out. So we'll see. We'll see who is actually coming after Allison. Sara is still running around Rosewood. And at the end of 6:10, we hear Emily say, you know, I heard Sara just got out of the hospital. And Allison says, it wasn't our fault what happened that night. So I kind of feel like Emily still cares about Sara, because she does know down deep inside she was trying to help. In the promo, there's pictures for 6B, and Sarah's standing at a grave. Now, we hear someone's supposed to die. I think it's somebody in the De Laurentiis family. I think it could be Sara standing there, aka Charles and Charlotte, over, you know, at her mother's grave, her brother's, dad's, sister's. I don't know whose it is, but I think it's something in the De Laurentiis family. Maybe Sara is a good guy after all. Maybe she's not this heartless bitch that everybody thinks she is. Bethany is the bitch. She's the evil bitch. I think the tapes that we hear are, you know, Sara acting as Bethany and Bethany acting as Charles. So Sarah's actually talking about the real Bethany, calling her an evil bitch. That's why the voices sound just like Sara Harvey that we know. It's because she was forced to pretend like she was Bethany, so she's telling the real story of Bethany. And Bethany's acting as CeCe or Charles. And I think that's what's going on. I really think Bethany is the CeCe that we know. And Sara Harvey that we know, the face of, that dated Emily, is actually Charles and Charlotte. But, you know, and the real Sara Harvey is in the ground. This is my theory. I'm not changing this theory. I don't care if we have 7 months until the next season. I'm sticking to this. I really, really, really believe that Bethany is CeCe and Sara Harvey is Charles, aka Charlotte, and the real Sara Harvey's in the ground. You know, now, I want to touch base on the yellow shirt. You know, we saw that Mrs. Laurentiis bought CeCe and Allison the same clothes. And we were told that Bethany stole CeCe's clothes. This makes perfect sense on sorry. This makes perfect sense on why they were wearing the same clothes that night. Bethany stole them, pretended as that she was, you know, Charles, snuck out of Radley, perfect alibi. They said it themselves. They literally told us that Bethany used Charles's outing rights and stole her clothes and snuck out. So, I mean, I don't know how else, it's right in front of us. Now that we know that another guy is after Allison and the girls come back to help her, this is why I think it's board shorts. Whoever possibly got her pregnant is coming back for her. But yeah. Sara Harvey is Charles / Charlotte. And the real Sara Harvey's in the ground. And Bethany is CeCe. And a reason why I think that she drugged Jason and Mr. D up while they were in Radley is so they couldn't interrupt her story and tell her that she's lying. She kept them their mouths shut, so the girls had no choice but to believe her. she's crazy. She's a crazy bitch. So that's my theory, and I would really like some feedback on what you guys think. I'm sorry if it's confusing. It's hard to put the pieces together when we're left out with so many. Follow me on Instagram and Facebook under Pretty Little Redhead, and let me know what you think. I'd really appreciate it. I want to start making videos, so have a great day, and let me know some of your theories. You know, I'm really excited to see what people are think about the upcoming season, who their favorite characters are. You know, are you excited that CeCe was A? Are you disappointed? You know, are you shocked about Redcoat and Black Veil? Just let me know your theories. If you're pissed off, happy, I don't care. I just want to know something. So until then, we'll see you later. Bye.